Hello, I'm Doreen Wenberg. The topic for my informative speech will be on prayer. Here's my audience. Do you ever hope for anything? Do you ever hope that you'll be able to afford a better car, or someday get a good job, or maybe the person that you're with is the right one? Or maybe you're just hoping to pass your classes. Whatever you're hoping for, did you know, according to the Bible in Hebrews 11:1, it tells us that faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews also tells us in 11:6 that without faith it is impossible to please God, and that he who comes to him must believe that he is, for he is a rewarder of those who seek him. When we come to God in prayer, we are communicating with the Father. Jesus modeled his dependency on the Father and taught believers by his example. According to the Barna research data, statistics show that 82% of Americans say they pray. I was happy to see that the percentage was at least this high. For some, the topic of prayer is a very familiar one. For others of you, maybe not so. Whether very familiar or not hardly at all, there is always something new to be learned. Today, as I talk to you about the topic of prayer, I will show 3 ways Jesus modeled it for us. The first way Jesus modeled and taught prayer was by using what we call the Lord's Prayer. One of the questions that the disciples asked Jesus was, "Lord, teach us to pray." And he responded in this way. He began to teach them what we now know as the Lord's Prayer. Many of us grew up memorizing this all too familiar prayer, and as Kay Arthur, author of Lord, Teach Me to Pray in 28 Days, points out, it is a collection of index sentences that covers every element of prayer. Listen for how many topics Jesus taught in this prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Here, Jesus is teaching praise and worship of the Father. Next, we see allegiance to God's sovereignty and thy kingdom come, and submission to thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Then we see petition and intercession, where it says, "Give us our daily bread." Confession and forgiveness are seen in, "Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." Deliverance is seen in, "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." And just as we began with worship, it ends with worship. "For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever." So, as you can see, the Lord's Prayer is not meant to be just a prayer that we say by rote, but a powerful example we can use as a model for prayer. So, how many topics did you hear in that? If you got 10, you would be correct. They were praise, worship, allegiance, submission, petition, intercession, confession, forgiveness, deliverance, and worship. In this next topic, Jesus taught prayer through parable teachings. Author Philip Yancey, from the book Prayer, Does It Make Any Difference?, tells a story from Mark 11:5-10, where the neighbor refuses the friend's midnight request, and the friend's persistence finally pays off, and the neighbor opens his door. Here Jesus teaches the application in this photograph by Jennifer Peets, titled "Ask, Seek, and Knock." Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. Another parable that Yancey elaborates on from Mark 18 is of the persistent widow, or as he says, the nagging widow. Over and over she comes to the judge seeking justice against her adversary. He finally grants it, and Jesus teaches his disciples to always pray and never give up. Finally, Jesus taught prayer by his example of withdrawing so he could pray. And Yancey gives examples from the Bible of Jesus fleeing crowds so that he could spend time with God, devoting all night in some cases. Several times throughout the Gospels, we see Jesus seeking out isolated places to pray. Yancey also points out that Jesus relied on prayer as a kind of spiritual recharging after preaching to large crowds or healing the sick. In conclusion, as you can see, even from these 3 short examples, Jesus taught his disciples much about how to pray. In modeling how to pray, Jesus helped give the disciples and future believers insight on how to pray. Jesus did so by modeling the Lord's Prayer, teaching parables, and by his example of withdrawing to isolated places to pray. Thank you.